So you qualify to file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy based on your household income, and your motor vehicles would not be taken from you if you filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. You've already talked to a bankruptcy lawyer. Well, what are your options actually going to be with the vehicle or the vehicles that you have if you file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy? What's going to happen to them? Very good question. And there are really four main things that can happen to your car if you go into a Chapter 7 bankruptcy and you do not have too much equity for your state's exemption. The first option is going to be to reaffirm. Second option is going to be to surrender. Third option is going to be to retain and pay. And the fourth option is going to be to redeem, or something called a redemption. So let's break these four different options down. If you're going into a 7 and you already know you're going to have to make some decisions here. I know most of you want to reaffirm your vehicle, but please keep watching. Please, for the love of God, keep watching. Option number 1 is going to be a reaffirmation agreement, or to reaffirm your vehicle. This is the most dangerous thing that you can do. And I want you to hear me when I say this. The entire state of California will not let any debtors reaffirm on a vehicle if they file bankruptcy in that state. That's how dangerous we recognize a reaffirmation is for you. A reaffirmation agreement simply means that now that you have filed bankruptcy, you are going to go to your car lender and you are agreeing to completely pay what you owe on the vehicle, not what the vehicle is worth. If you have negative equity, a reaffirmation is the worst thing that you can do because you're agreeing to buy back your own vehicle for substantially more than what it is worth. It doesn't matter that you love it or that you have a great stereo in it or that you've taken extra baby care of it, because by definition, those increase its value and you could go buy another one for a lower price than what you would be reaffirming your own for. So anytime you have negative equity, you do not reaffirm. You reaffirm if you have significant positive equity and you feel comfortable that you're going to be able to pay this vehicle off and it will still have value for you and still have use. That's when you reaffirm. Number 1. Your second option, of course, is going to be to surrender, which I am a very big fan of. Most people don't want to surrender their vehicles because they believe deep in their soul that they will never get another vehicle. And I cannot express to you how untrue that belief is. Not only are cars some of the easiest things for people who've just filed bankruptcy to do, the interest rate is not tied necessarily to the fact that you filed bankruptcy. It's tied to your income ability. So the better your income is, the lower your interest rate is going to be. But more importantly, if you surrender the vehicle you come into the bankruptcy with and you finance a different vehicle, it's going to help your credit. There is no guarantee if you reaffirm your own vehicle that your lender will actually report to your credit, and therefore it can possibly not even help you continue to move forward. If you're going to surrender a vehicle, you're probably going to be able to drive it somewhere between 1 and 4 months after you file your bankruptcy without making a payment on it while you're looking for a different vehicle. Occasionally, your lender will try to speed that process up and they'll file what's called a motion for relief from stay, meaning they want your vehicle a little bit faster. If you're going to continue to drive it, you obviously want to maintain insurance on it, because anything that happens to you after you have filed a bankruptcy is considered post-petition debt, and it's not included in your bankruptcy. It's your new debt in your new life. You can surrender your vehicle before you ever even file bankruptcy. The difference is what's going to go away in the bankruptcy. Or if you've managed not to let it get repoed up until the day you file, you'll be able to drive it for a couple of months. Your third option is going to be to retain and pay. Retain and pay essentially means you're renting your own car back from the lender for the exact same monthly payment that you were making before you filed the bankruptcy. So let's pretend you have a 2018 Honda Odyssey. You don't want to keep that because you've got negative equity. Your payment was $642 a month. If you keep making your $642 a month payment, even though you filed bankruptcy, you'll be able to keep driving it for another month. Every month that you make the payment on time, you get to drive it another month. It is a short-term option. a stopgap measure. It's not designed for long term. It is designed so you can continue to drive something while you continue to look for your next best car. You do not complete all of the payments in a retain and pay, otherwise you would have reaffirmed, and you would have only reaffirmed if there was positive equity. If you complete all of the payments in a retain and pay situation, you have paid too much for the vehicle, and that is not what we're doing here. Retain and pay is short term, lets you drive something while you go look for something else. And the benefit of a retain and pay is that when you find something else, even if it's 6 months after you file for bankruptcy, you can surrender that vehicle to the creditor and you are not responsible for the difference anymore because of that bankruptcy you filed 6, 8, 10 months ago, and because you did not reaffirm. Option number 4 is pretty rare these days, especially in my office, because the last time I filed a redemption, it did not go well for my client. To redeem your car means you are paying its actual current fair market value. So let's go back to the Honda Odyssey. It's worth $18,000. I owed $30,000 on it. If I file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy and I have had that car loan for more than 910 days, then I have an option to redeem that vehicle, meaning I can file a motion asking the court to allow me to buy my vehicle back for $18,000. So you see, you're actually paying the current fair market value for the vehicle the moment you file the bankruptcy. The problem is you have to come up with $18,000. And it's a one price. You don't get to finance it. It's here's 18 grand. So there are companies that will finance a redemption for you. You can oftentimes borrow from a 401k for a redemption. Obviously, if your vehicle is worth less, it's easier to redeem. I would just want to remind you that I'm a big fan of surrendering. There's a link in my profile. I work with a car dealership that only sells cars to people in or coming out of bankruptcy. I genuinely believe that's usually your best option because of the benefits to your credit score and because you're in something reliable that's not going to jam you up with negative equity and force you back into a bankruptcy down the road. Good luck, everybody.